we just came straight from a coronavirus briefing that we did, so if you're interested in finding out what we learned, we're happy to tell you about that too. Wash your hands, don't touch your face, don't buy a mask, things like that. I'm sorry?
Who are you?
I'm Suraj Patel. I'm a candidate for Congress in this district, in the 12th district, the second time around. I'll just tell you a little bit about myself and do any questions or... Yeah, cool, okay, great. Yeah, so my name is Suraj Patel. I'm a professor at NYU of business ethics. And when I was 5 years old, I can remember my dad used to work for the MTA. He was a lifelong union member, and he would come home after a night shift fixing track. And I'd be going to school in the morning. I was 5 years old, and we would joke now, 30 years later, that there are two things that remain the same: the condition of those tracks and your congressional representative. After 30 years, I think we deserve representation with vision. Vision that is bold and that is progressive. Now, a lot of people throw around the word progressive these days as a label or a slogan, but I imagine that for the people in this room, progress for like me was not an option. It was required. My family came from India in the late 60s, and the halls of Wall Street and the Ivy League were closed to people like them, and like so many other immigrant families, we started a business. We fit 13 Patels in a one-bedroom apartment above a bodega that we were running. And we slept on the floor in a line. And I can remember something actually that still, when you sleep like that, you wake up when the first person wakes up. And back then, when the New York Times came on Sundays for you to sell, the Times would come in different sections, and you'd have to piece the paper together. Because if you did that, you could make 50 extra cents selling it. And so it's a testament, I think, to the power of the promise of New York, of the American dream, mobility, opportunity, and education, that 30 years later, those people who were putting together a New York Times section by section to make 50 extra cents get to see their son's name in print as a Democratic candidate for United States Congress in that city. I got to become an attorney. I worked for Barack Obama, greatest president of our lifetimes, and I opened his doors and I cleaned up after he left across the country in rallies and events, and I got to see firsthand how exhilarating it is to be a Democrat when we're playing offense, when we're leading boldly with a vision for the future. And I know how devastating it is to be a Democrat when we're playing defense constantly. And that's what this race is about. Now, I don't think that you should be a representative in this day and age in New York City and call yourself progressive if you take more corporate PAC money than Mitt Romney. If you voted for a border wall in 2006, long before Donald Trump ever proposed it. If you voted for the Iraq War or against President Obama's deal, Middle East diplomacy, and sided with Trump and Republicans on those things too. You shouldn't be a congressperson that did those, that had that kind of record and that kind of judgment, and not be challenged in the primary. And that's why I'm here. I think that we have a vision for the future. We have a family opportunity guarantee that we released a few weeks ago that guarantees universal pre-K, nationwide public option for child care, Medicare for kids, and a family, universal child allowance. The plan would halve child poverty in the first year in New York City alone, and eradicate it soon thereafter, at no cost more than what we already spent. It just takes ideas and vision, I think, to be bold, and that's why I'm running for Congress. And I would rather give you some time to ask questions than to go on about some of the other policies. Look, I came here a lot 2 years ago when I was running for Congress. I never stopped coming. I remember having pizza up here just a year ago with David Stone talking about Roosevelt Island and this district overall. It's the most unequal district in America that we live in. And it's also the wealthiest. And therefore it has a unique obligation to lead this country. So with that, I would love to take any questions. Do you have any? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Frank Ferenc. I've lived here for 2 years. I remember you previously. I remember your interview or whatever, your write-up with David Stone. I remember reading it carefully, and I remember having the feeling of, yes, we have had, you're the same Congress member, for a while, and hearing and seeing, a fresh face. So congratulations on your successes. I'd like to say, if you'd like to engage with this community other than coming to a common council meeting, why not stop by at the Saturday market, which is right over at Motorgate, and hand out flyers. I mean, that's what we do. That's how we socialize ideas. Meet people at the subway. But I think try the Saturday market first, because I think you can have good conversations and people are in the listening mode. So I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much. I would love to, and we did that a few times last year in the spring, especially, and happy to do that. Yes, that'd be great. Thank you.
Would you be willing to endorse Bernie Sanders? Are you that progressive? Speaking progressive.
It's a very, very, very valid question, and I have taken this position on this primary because I am now old enough, at age 36, to know that one election and one primary at a time is enough, and I am staying away from that thing as much as possible. I will tell you though, as a professor of business ethics at NYU, who sincerely believe, and who's as someone who has had to make payroll with 2,000 employees while my family was going through 7 bankruptcies at the same time after the financial crisis. I am no socialist. I believe in the market, but I do believe it has massive structural problems. That we have so much consolidation of market power in the hands of a few major companies, few banks, 2 pharmacies sell you 99% of your drugs, 3 airlines fly you on 85% of your flights. And I think the hidden tax that the Americans have paid for that lack of competition is staggering, in the form of lower wages, worse prices, worse innovation and customer service. I think anyone who's flown recently knows that. And so I really believe in enforcing antitrust law and things like that. To some extent, I guess I'm maybe just dropping hints here that there is a candidate in this race that still remains, whose policies I think are very compelling.
Right, because Bernie Sanders is not a socialist. That's the wrong way to even frame it. He is a democratic socialist, as in FDR.
Right.
Not a socialist.
I would consider myself a social democrat for sure. Yeah. I guess
So I know where you're coming from.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
And what's your name again?
Yes, Suraj
Patel.
Patel. Yeah.
Yeah, but how do you spell your first name?
S as in Sam, U-R-A as in Apple, J as in Jack. This is one of the
L-A-J Patel.
S-U-R-A-J. One of the difficult parts of having a name like this when you're running for office is that no one can find your website. So another way to find us is the date of the election. We find out one of the reasons the turnouts in New York City's primaries are so low is because most people don't know that there's an election coming up. And I think that's been done on purpose for a long, long time. Well, our primary is on June 23rd of this year. So if you go to june23rd.com or .nyc, www.june23.nyc, you will be pulled to our website as well.
Why do you want to be a congressman?
Why do I want to be a congressman? Because I think that for too long, people have stopped looking at government as a positive source for social good and change. And that's our own fault. We get the government we deserve. I think I've heard that adage a million times. And if we keep returning the same types of people to Washington who embody some of the worst things about the system that we've all come to detest, then again, we only have ourselves to blame if we lack change. I want to write policy. I teach policy. I think that we can do a lot in this country by imagining, and trying to solve problems that haven't been solved for so long. And that's why. One other unique thing, again, this district leads in almost every facet of American life. The reason we had a coronavirus panel is because we have this untapped brain power here in leading in healthcare, some of the best hospitals in the country, immunologists. We have capital finance, culture, media, entertainment, and in politics, it should also be leading with bold ideas.
I want to ask you one more question, and I've been wanting to ask this a long time.
To me?
To anybody. A lot of people come here so they come for the American dream.
Yep.
I would like to know what the hell is the American dream.
Well,
I
I think one of the things we just said.
I'm gonna tell you something. I am a native Black American because my ancestors did not immigrate here.
Right.
They came on slave ships, rode
Right.
and made slaves. So I've been here for over 400 years, and I still don't know what the American dream is.
I think that's a very, very good question and an important one, because when I say that I believe in the American dream enough to know that it is not working for enough of us at all, the story that I just told you that we were able to sort of live, imagine somebody being born in a 4-story walk-up in the Astoria part of this district, or in Queensbridge or somewhere like that, and in one generation being able to sort of work their way through living, on the Upper East Side. The odds of that happening today are like a lottery ticket, and that cannot be the case. Abraham Lincoln used to say that upward mobility is central to the premise of the American founding. That prior to that, the circumstances of your birth really dictated your economic outcomes until we threw off that aristocracy. I think it's very fundamental that we have upward mobility in this country, and that is through education, mobility, and opportunity. We are now at 27th on a mobility index, which puts tons of countries that you would never think of, France and Germany and Spain, all these countries ahead of us in being able to say that I could be born into one social class and through education and hard work make it to another. We should not be 27th in that. If the American dream were real and widely available, then we would be number 1 in that measure. I do understand, how difficult it is, I think, when year after year and decade after decade, politicians stand ahead of you and promise you grandiose things that never happen. I think a mistrust or distrust of that is so healthy and understandable. I'm not here to preach, fantastical ideas of revolution. I just want to help solve problems.
Okay, so you want to be a congressman, but go to Washington D.C. or be here
so I'd be in Washington D.C., which is where U.S. Congress is. But obviously, I would commute back and forth since I really love living in New York City.
Why don't you run for senator?
Well, barely 36 years old. And I think that this is a winnable race, and one that I'm very interested in for a variety of reasons, including that I think I'm better suited to do this job than the current congressperson. And someone has to do it. Someone needed to challenge him. I do like that job. I have to do this every year. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate it. Does anybody else have anything else before I?
So, why are you starting out as running for Congress? There are other people that say they have more experience as elected officials. You've never been elected before. Are you kind of like jumping the gun over other people?
I think that for a long time, and I probably hear it every other day, to wait your turn is something that you should be doing in New York politics as people have been doing for decades. Well, there's nothing less New York than that. This city is uniquely defined by people who sometime in their life, or sometime in your ancestor's life, was told to wait your turn. And you decided instead to not. You decided, or your family members or somebody in your past decided when they were told to wait your turn, to leave, to get on a boat or a train or a bus or a plane from all 50 states and all 163 countries and come to this city, New York City, defined by aspiration. This is precisely where we don't wait our turn, and we can't afford to any longer. And that's why I'm running now. Thank you. Thanks a lot.